Howdy, everybody. Welcome back after a long time back to the Country Fried Nerds podcast.
Woo-woo.
I'm Greg, and with me, as always, is my co-host.
Hello, my name's Tommy. I'm his brother,
Yep.
and we talk about nerd shit.
Yeah, we do.
'Cause that's all we really know,
Yeah,
honestly.
pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much the gist of it here.
And I only agreed to do this so I could talk about how much Ragnarok made me upset.
Because it did. It
God
made...
of War Ragnarok, that
Rather,
is.
right. Well, we damn sure ain't talking about Thor Ragnarok.
No.
That's a whole different fucking episode.
The only reason I agreed to do this so I could talk about how much I hated it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, which is really sad. And it's a trend that happens a lot in games, it seems. That you get invested in a really good series of games, and then they put one out, and it fucks it completely.
Oh, yeah.
Completely ruins the entire everything for it. And what they did with God of War Ragnarok, and a lot of, not for nothing, it did get a lot of good critical praise. It got very high review scores.
Undeserved.
But for somebody that, I don't know, I don't want to make myself sound pretentious or anything, but for somebody that steeps themselves in that kind of thing, the way they ended that game especially, which, by the way, if you're listening and you haven't played that game and you intend on playing the game, this might be spoilers.
Heavy spoilers. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
So, you might want to click off of here until you play. Just saying. Come back and listen, but spoilers all the same. What they did with the end of that game was the biggest blue ball I think I've ever seen in video games. I'm not even gonna that's just the way it is. That's the only thing I can think of because
I agree completely.
Because the God of War 2018 was a masterpiece of a video game.
Oh yeah,
like it's probably the closest to a near perfect game we've seen in a decade.
I agree.
In the very least.
I would play that right now if somebody put it in front of me.
I'm telling you. Pick it up today and play it until I couldn't stand it no more.
Yep.
So the hype going into God of War Ragnarok, especially for us, for people, well, not just for us, but for people that pay attention to stories and, pay attention to little details, that they left so many things untalked about, and they left so many things open. And then the actual build-up to the end of the game, and then the end of the game, were so disappointing.
I'd say the last half of the
hour.
game.
Yeah.
Last half of the game.
Probably from Ironwood. Ironwood's where it started to fall off a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the other thing with it, which, our opinion, which it might be the minority opinion, and from the looks of things it is, as far as the game goes, technically it was awesome. Graphically, it looked good.
I saw quite a few technical
bugs. There were a lot of bugs. Now, what we saw was early footage. It was pre-release date footage.
Yeah.
But we watched the entirety of the game because we were curious and couldn't wait, really, is what it was. Because that's the thing. We were so excited for this game to finish this story that they had started. A story with probably, if not the best, some of the best character development for a character ever.
Oh yeah, it's
Kratos. Think back to the original God of War games.
The amount of change that Kratos went through is actually insane.
It's astounding. It's building a whole new person from something else. Is what it was. I mean, straight up. They kind of, with Ragnarok, they really kind of shit in its face. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah. It was a complete slap in the face of everything they tried to build in the first one.
And it just was. And the thing is there's no excuse.
No.
That's what bothers me probably the most about it, is there is literally no excuse for it being bad.
No.
Because they had it. They had the system. They had everything worked out. All they had to do was pay attention to their source material and fucking answer questions that were asked by the original. Which I think a lot of it probably has to do with a new director on the game.
Yeah, but Corey Barlog was still
part of it.
He was.
Right.
He was in the credits. I remember that much.
Right. So why they decided to ignore some of the most vital pieces of the game. Now, if you haven't played God of War 2018, I highly suggest that you go out right now and either play it on PS5 or on PC. Right now.
I agree.
Because that game right there, especially if you like action-adventure, story-driven games, it's the best one that's been made in 20 years, maybe.
Probably.
I mean, Skyrim's the last thing that I remember that had the same impact that game had on me personally.
Yeah.
You know, because God of War was one of those things way back in the day that you pretty much knew what you were getting.
Right.
Like, you knew what you signed up for from the minute you put it in your console.
Predictable.
Right. 2018 God of War completely fucking blew it out of the water.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was such a
step in the right direction.
Right, and it was so well done, and they didn't take themselves too seriously.
Handled with care.
Right, like they actually put care into it. And this one
did not feel like that.
No. And from what I understand, the development was kind of fucked from the beginning because of COVID. So, like, they had a lot of people working remotely on a lot of things. And I can imagine that would make it very difficult to make a cohesive, complete thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But we've been out of quarantine for almost 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like...
There's literally no excuse. They just dropped the ball.
Right.
That's all.
And, like, the worst part about it is like I said, they just ignored things from the first game that needed answered.
Oh, yeah.
There's one big one that they ignored completely and never even made mention of, never even thought about it, and that's who blew the fucking horn whenever Atreus was sick.
Yep. That is the only question.
Because that's the one we wanted answered.
It's the only one I personally cared about. No,
right.
For some reason, I don't know.
Because Corey Balrog said that it was not Baldur.
No, it was not. And I mean, I believe that.
I really think they might have run out of time.
It's a good possibility.
You know what I'm saying? Because there was a lot of stuff that we expected to be in there that wasn't in there.
Well, and there were a lot of things that were downscaled and rushed through, like the whole Ragnarok, like the actual Ragnarok scene.
Yeah.
It lasted, what, an hour maybe?
Right. What 30 hours previous of the game had been leading up to.
And then the whole last game was also leading up to.
Right. So all this build up from the whole Ragnarok and all of God of War 2018 came down to a 30-minute section of fighting enemies and then fighting a boss and then fighting some more enemies and then fighting the final boss and then the game was over.
Yep.
And like
it really felt rushed.
And I get that I feel like they were trying to give Kratos a happy ending. But here's the thing with Kratos. He doesn't get a happy ending.
No, he doesn't deserve a happy ending.
And that's so shitty to say, but you got to think, man, this man wiped out an entire country.
Civilization.
Yeah. Because at the end of God of War 3, when he killed Zeus, it destroyed Greece.
Yeah.
It flooded.
Yeah.
So...
I mean...
There is no redemption. I will always say that bad people doing good things is a good thing, but it never takes away the bad things.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Kratos did some horrible, terrible, awful things that he never answered for.
Yep.
That's the thing. There was no answer for it at all.
Like the ship captain.
Right. Or the barbarian.
That
poor ship captain. He killed him like 4 times.
Did he kill him like 4 or 5 times?
Yep. Fed him to the Hydra twice.
Poor feller.
Poor guy. And then killed him in Hades, I think, the 3rd time.
I'm pretty sure. Or I think he might have used him to climb
up. Yeah, he like grabbed him and threw him down.
Or something like that. I don't know. It's been so long since I played those games.
Those games were a long time ago. But Kratos doesn't get a happy ending. He's not the kind of person for it. Like, that sucks, and I wanted it. You know, you watch the character development, and you fall in love with it. You really do.
Oh yeah.
Because it's such a homey story. Like, it hits you at home, especially for anybody that's
got kids.
Right. And had to fucking struggle through becoming a parent, not knowing how to be a parent. Yep. Because that was a lot of it too. Because up until Faye died, from what I understand, Kratos didn't have much to do with Atreus. He was damn near afraid of him.
That's what it seemed like.
You know what I'm saying? Like the little bit of flashback that you get with Laufey and Kratos.
I remember I bought the PS4 Pro I bought to play the first God of War, the 2018 one. Came with a digital comic that was set before the game started. And it was literally just Kratos taking off on his own and letting these wolves attack him over and over and him not doing nothing about it.
Trying to learn how to control himself.
Yeah.
And, you know...
But Atreus was alive at that point.
Right.
So, I don't know, it was like right before
he had to have been... I mean, it would have had to have been right before the game.
Yeah.
But even
still...
I
mean, even up until the point where Atreus is in the picture, he still doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
No, he has no clue. He's a man with no fate and no home. And that's the thing a lot of people tend to discount.
Oh, the fates. Oh, my God.
That's the thing people discount about Kratos, man. This man exists outside of fate.
He has no fate.
He killed the fates of his... He destroyed his own string. He destroyed them all.
Yeah.
He killed the keeper of the strings. Like, he did it all. And in the new one, you go see the Norse fates, the Norns, which is...
5 minutes?
Right. It was a completely useless section. Like, it offered no new information whatsoever other than what we already knew.
Powering off.
Because straight up, the fucking... They didn't do anything. They didn't tell him anything that he didn't already know.
No. They told him that Heimdall was planning to kill Atreus.
That's the only new information that they got.
Which they totally could have done without having the whole Norn section.
Right. There was no... And it was such a small thing. Like, they just kind of glanced over it.
Right.
And Fate was the subject of an entire game in the first run.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that was the whole point of the second game, was to destroy Fate so Zeus couldn't kill you.
Yeah.
So they just shoehorned it in so they could call back to the original series. And I noticed a lot of that. Like, a lot of calling back to the old series just for the sake of...
We're going to shit on Ragnarok a lot here, because I was really pissed off about it. But I will say the only good part of that, the only part I actually was like, wow, okay, they did a good job, was Sindri.
Yeah.
After Brock dies.
Yes.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
You were warned.
Yeah, you were warned. So Brock dies by Odin's hand. Sindri, if you have played the game, you remember that he's a germaphobe. Yeah. He's terrified of everything.
Wears gloves
and everything. Doesn't like body stuff. Well, you find out in the second game that Brock's actually dead. And it was brought back by Sindri.
It's been dead for a while.
Yeah, since before the first game.
Yeah. And he was brought back in the Lake of Souls in Alfheim by Sindri, and that's why they don't go back to Svartalheim.
Because they were shunned.
Because everybody knew Brock was dead.
Right. So, in a very forced, weird section, you learn this, and then in another section, it's confirmed, and then nothing else is said about it.
Yeah.
And then Brock dies immediately thereafter.
Yeah, and then Brock is actually finally killed again.
And Sindri wants to bring him back, but Brock says no.
And it really develops Sindri's character. I mean, he takes off the gloves. He gets his hands dirty.
He starts fighting.
Yeah, and he really goes all for it. I mean, he was all in on Ragnarok.
I mean, he was the dude that made the call that needed to be made.
And I do like that he was the one to actually deal the final blow
to Odin. Yeah, me too.
That was a really good choice.
That was a nice nail on the head, because the thing is he was the only one that was going to do it.
Yeah, no, they weren't. They were going to keep him somewhere. I'm sure.
Because that's a good idea for the All-Father.
Yeah, right.
Let's fucking keep him. No. So they did a really good job with Sindri's character. I didn't like the rift they put between Atreus and Sindri, because at the beginning of the game they were like best friends. They'd been going out and adventuring together and shit.
In secret.
Right. And then because
Sindri went behind Kratos' back
with Atreus,
which
that's
is insane.
It's a brave ass dwarf, bro.
Yeah.
You know, like that's balls right there. You don't mess with Kratos.
Cojones.
Right. Kratos fucking rip you in half and not think twice about it. And that's, you know, I don't know, they just seem to do one thing in the first act of the game and then fucking negate it in the second act.
Well, the fact that Kratos lived through the whole thing is really what upsets me.
Yeah.
Because they spent, one of the big reveals at the end of the first game is
that Kratos is supposed to die.
You see the mural of him dying in Atreus' arms.
Right.
Know? And they mention that, and that's one of Atreus' big motivations, but he never even comes close to dying.
No, not even mortally wounded or nothing.
No.
Like, his first fight with Thor didn't even hurt him that bad.
No.
Like, that was the whole thing. And they really tried to... I don't know, they forced the wrong kind of character development on Kratos in this one. Because at a point when the stakes were as high as they were, I'm sorry, I'm going full God of War.
Right.
Like I'm tearing people into pieces, and, I'm going to take fucking...
It's Ragnarok, man.
Right, I'm going to take all of Asgard.
Yeah.
They're all going to die. Ain't not one of them going to live. And that's the thing, too. Like, a lot of people that should have died didn't die. And a lot of people that shouldn't have died did die.
The only god he kills in that game
is Heimdall. Yeah. He beats the shit out of Thor.
Yeah, well, we all saw that end.
The only other scene that I really thoroughly enjoyed was the bar fight scene. With Atreus and Thrud and Thor and fucking Asgard.
That was very good.
It was a very well done scene. They did a really good job. They gave... That scene was there to kind of give you feelings of warmth toward Thor and Thrud, I think.
Right.
But even still, they did all that and then just shit in its fucking face. Like, they literally, this whole game, they shit and fell back into it.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Really did.
And it's so stupid because it didn't have to be that way.
Well, one of my main problems with it is they really doubled down on the whole combat part of it. You're fighting so much.
Right. It was like every 30 steps or something. Like, there was no...
It's less about exploring and seeing things and more about
killing
everything in your path.
The gameplay loop got very repetitive very quickly. Like, very early on. Even playing as two different characters, it still got very repetitive. Because... and that's what happens whenever you have a small, contained, open world.
Yep.
That you have to run through, and you put enemies in every new area. That's all that was. That's why it got so stale so fast, is because you were fighting literally every step of your way. And, yeah, that's fine. It's God of War, but it's different because they've made the combat system so much more...
slower.
Right, and it's so much more, you really got to think about what you're doing, versus the old ones where you could just mash the buttons and kill everything. It takes time to kill things now, and that really slows the pacing of the game down.
Yeah, the pacing was a big problem with Ragnarok.
It was.
I don't know, some sections seemed to drag on, and some were too short.
And some were completely unnecessary. Like the Ironwood, that was the longest section for no reason.
That could have been a cutscene easily.
That could have been a 3-minute cutscene and covered everything that they covered. I get it. They're trying to, develop Atreus' character a little bit, but that entire section was completely superfluous. The only thing you got out of it was the marbles.
Yeah.
You find out where the giants are.
Yeah, that's all.
And find out that at the end of the last game, the dead giants you see in Jotunheim are not real.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that either.
That's a weird one. It's a real weird one. I guess it's so they can be protected from everybody, but...
And if they hadn't pointed that out, I never would have known that Ironwood was in Jotunheim.
No. Because what we saw of Jotunheim was mountains and snow and
then Ironwood's just a forest somewhere.
Right.
In Jotunheim, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. It was very strange. But I want to talk about the biggest casualty of that game. The fact that they didn't give Atreus a sword.
Oh my
in
God.
a conventional sense. Bro.
They give him a sword. Okay, y'all get this. They give him a sword. But it swings itself. It's like a companion character. If you've ever played Nier Automata, your little pod dude that hangs out with you, that's what the sword was.
Yeah. That's a good...
He's swinging his fucking bow and has a magic sword swinging beside him. He doesn't get to touch the sword at all and only gets to keep it for one section, and then it goes back to who it belongs to.
He gets 2 sections with it.
Is it 2?
Yeah.
Well, regardless.
Both whenever he's going to look for the
mask.
And that's another thing.
The Mask of Loki. They spent, the whole time that Atreus was in Asgard.
That's what he was doing.
It was like a 3 or 4 hour section of the game.
Yeah.
All together.
And it was broken apart into different pieces, too.
Right, you had to go to 3 different places to get it. And then they just broke it. Like, and I get that they were trying to keep it from Odin, but this is fucking Loki. That was Loki's mask.
Yeah. Like,
it even looked like the conventional, the mask from the Mask movie. That's Loki's mask. It even looked like that.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
And all this build up and all this stuff, just for him to snap it.
In a very unceremonious way.
Right,
too.
like it was just an afterthought. Because he was wholly in control of that situation. Because it was Atreus, Kratos, and Freya.
And then Odin, who had already been beaten.
Right.
Right?
It was right before the fight.
Right before the fight.
And he was begging Atreus to let him have the mask, and Atreus didn't do it. But instead of, giving it to his god-killing father, or, the goddess of all of the Vanir, he's just going to break it in half. And, I get it. It's his choice. It's his mask. Whatever. But that's some bullshit.
That is some bullshit.
See, they copped themselves out's what happened. They ran out of time.
See, I don't think they had any idea what they could have put in that. But that's one of the biggest things about that game, man. You really nailed it. Because it was a blue ball. Because you spend so long looking for this mask, and you do these crazy, miraculous things to get the pieces to this mask, and the whole while you're wondering, what's in the tear that Odin saw that burned his eye?
Right, because that's the whole thing. The whole reason for the mask is that there's a tear in the realms that Odin peered through that took his eye from him. And the understanding is with the mask, you can peer through and see basically the meaning of life. That's what Odin was after.
I mean, it's supposed to be knowledge.
The fount of the fount of all knowledge, basically.
Yeah.
And
it just you never even consider trying to figure out what's
in it. No, it never gives you any inkling, and as quickly as you learn about it, it's gone.
Right, I think you actually only see the tear twice.
Yeah, you see it the first time whenever you go in there, and then the second time whenever you get the first mask piece and it gets bigger.
Yeah. And then the third time.
And then whenever you're at Ragnarok. I don't know,
there were a lot of things that they started to explain or started to flesh out a little bit, but then they just kind of threw it to the side, like Surtur.
Right.
It was such a big deal, and for Ragnarok, the
right.
actual prophecy.
If you know the prophecy, Surtur's entire existence is to destroy Asgard during Ragnarok. And they completely ignored that. They made a huge deal about the fact that the only person that could get through the fucking wall of Asgard was Surtur.
Even after Atreus had already climbed up to the top
Right.
of it.
You free climb the wall of Asgard as Atreus. You really do, by yourself. No help, no gear, no nothing.
That kid has balls of steel.
He's Kratos' kid, bro.
Yeah, bro.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a god. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
And, just the mask and Surtur, and it all just compiled in this big disappointment for me.
Yeah, because Surtur's whole deal was that he was supposed to be their way in. But he didn't even show up until they were already in.
Right.
Sindri brought the wall down.
Right, he didn't break the walls of Asgard like they went and got him to do.
That was the whole point.
Yeah.
And then he was more of a hindrance than a help during the actual...
Yeah.
Because he killed everybody. He hit everybody.
He was there to destroy Asgard.
Right.
Which is what he was supposed to do,
but the way they went about it.
The story would have happened the same
if he hadn't even been a part of it.
Yep.
Only thing that would have been different is that Asgard wouldn't have been destroyed.
Yeah.
And honestly, they could have made Kratos do that too.
Yeah.
And you give birth to Jormungandr, but not really. It's a really weird
Yeah, Jormungandr just being some random giant they put into the
snake's soulless body. Yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah. I don't understand that.
Because Angrboda and Loki are the actual factual parents of Fenrir, Hel, and Jormungandr.
Yeah.
Well, we saw nothing of Hel at all.
I think they might have another kid too. I can't remember.
Well, Those are the three main ones I can remember for Ragnarok.
Yeah.
We saw Fenrir.
Yeah.
He didn't fulfill his purpose at all, because in Ragnarok, Fenrir's supposed to eat Odin, from what I understand. Now, please hold on. Don't take our interpretations of Norse mythology at face value, because we know very little. I know surface level stuff.
Yeah, it's about
You
all
know?
I got too.
So we're not trying to like dive into the realms of Norse paganism or anything. It's just there are parallels to draw that they seemingly ignored.
Oh yeah, they ignored a whole lot of things. I think that was their main problem. They ignored their first game
Completely.
That was their first.
That's the whole thing.
Problem.
And that's the whole thing too. Like Thor, for instance. Thor and Jormungandr are supposed to fight each other till they're both dead.
Yeah.
Thor and Jormungandr fight off screen.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes.
Well, they're in the background. You can see.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean though. They're not part of the actual. They're
backdrop.
Right, they're backdrop assets instead of actually part of the game. And then Thor sends him back in time in such an unceremonious way, which is something that was supposed to have been a big thing. Like, that's time travel.
Yeah.
Like, they even made mention of temporal magic a few times and never went anywhere with it.
Yeah.
It was such like a snap, quick thing that didn't make any sense to me. Because, I don't know, that just the way they set it up and all the things that we thought we drew from the first one, they completely ignored.
Yeah.
Like, we had the running theory that Kratos was going to end up being Jormungandr.
Yeah, I really, really thought.
Well, I mean, if you look at the last prophecy from the first game, he's laying out and there's something looks like a snake coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Like, I assumed what was going to happen. Once I saw the marbles, what I thought would happen is that he would almost die and Atreus would whisper his soul into something, and that's where we would get Jormungandr.
Yeah.
But he was just a regular snake and a normal giant.
Yeah.
Combined.
Just some random dude. That's
right.
all it was.
And it didn't even tell his name.
No, I don't think so.
And if it did, it was a one-mention thing and never mentioned again.
I don't remember if they did ever mention his name or not. I don't think so.
And like a lot of the things that in-game were bad, like directly after what is supposed to be the penultimate part of this game, the wind down after Ragnarok. So after Ragnarok, Asgard falls, the people that escaped. The people that died.
Yep.
And that was it. There was really no mention. Like, even Thor. Odin, spoilers, Odin kills Thor. Okay?
After Kratos beats him.
Right. Kratos beats him and tells him, basically
Stop
convinces...
or I'm gonna kill you.
Right. Basically convinces him that this is not the correct course of action. It's going to end up with you dead. You need to stand up to your dad.
Yeah.
And then Odin shows up and just fucking stabs Thor.
Yeah, for not listening to him.
Right. And fucking smacks through.
Thor never raised a arm to him or nothing.
Never even made an attempt. He was on his knees.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing too. Like, Thor, when you're introduced to him, he is a bad motherfucker.
Oh yeah, he's
big and strong and mean.
That first scene, that first fight you have with him, he actually kills Kratos.
Right, that's the thing too.
Back to life.
He does. Straight up kills him and then defibs him with Mjolnir and brings him back.
Gives you a game over type screen and everything.
Yeah, it's like a perfect little thing.
It
It was a beautiful touch.
Good. It was good.
And like the frozen lightning.
It was really cool.
Right, except the one in fucking Vanaheim.
Yeah. Was it Vanaheim?
Yes. That apparently, for whatever reason, Laufey was strong enough to be able to fight with Thor, her being a human-sized giant, and be able to do the same thing that Kratos was able to do by freezing the lightning.
Right.
And like, yeah, the dwarves even said that the axe, the Leviathan axe, was meant to be the foil to Mjolnir, but in the hands of a giant,
weapons will only get you so far.
right?
I mean,
like,
giant is maybe it's more of a showing of how strong Faye
she
actually
was
was.
right, and that's possible. It just doesn't seem likely to me. Like,
well, I thought for sure once we saw that second Frozen,
that was going to be time travel.
There's gonna be time travel involved somehow.
I really thought they were going to fight through time.
I did too.
Is what I thought. I thought that was what that was going to be, because that's the thing. Thor and Kratos are so powerful.
Yeah.
Like, they could fight to a stalemate.
I mean, Thor literally knocked Jormungandr back to the time of his birth.
Right. They started a bunch of things that they didn't finish, and they left a lot of loops open.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Kratos not dying is probably the biggest injustice, aside from Atreus not getting to use a sword.
That. And at the very end, Atreus just leaves.
Yeah, I hated the very opening, the closing minutes of that game.
Yeah, like the last 10 minutes of that game are terrible.
You wake up from Ragnarok and suddenly Atreus is like, oh,
I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. I'm out.
Kratos doesn't say shit.
Kratos doesn't, because the whole time, especially in the first game, the whole point was that they wanted to be left alone.
Right.
They went through great lengths to not be found.
Right.
The protection stave and the mark that Freya gives them and
all that shit. All these things to keep Asgard away from them.
Right. And that's what I'm assuming that was a big part of Faye's plan too, was to keep Asgard away,
as far away from them as possible.
The whole protection stave.
Mm-hmm. And she did that so that whenever they cut the trees down, they had no choice but to leave, which would get them as far away from Odin as possible.
Right, but Kratos' whole motivation in the first game is to spread her ashes and to train his son.
Right.
Train his son to survive on his own, which I guess he does do a good job.
He does.
But, immediately after Ragnarok, Atreus just dips.
Doesn't even go to Brock's funeral. That's the bad thing. For all the love and care that Atreus exhibited throughout these games, him missing Brock's funeral is bullshit.
Oh, yeah. I don't understand that at all.
Regardless of how Sindri felt.
Freya went.
Kratos went.
Right.
And, Kratos was attached to Brock.
Oh, yeah.
It was really strange. It was a really strange thing. But Atreus wasn't there. And, it probably would have been awkward, and Sindri probably would have been pissed off, but that was somebody that had been with them their entire adventure.
Yeah.
They stayed in this motherfucker's house.
Yeah.
How are you not going to come to his funeral?
I don't know, man. That whole funeral scene was super sad.
It was very sad. I about cried, I ain't gonna lie. Because Kratos broke is the thing. That's one of the first real human experiences you see of Kratos.
Yeah.
His first, and you saw it in the first game with him getting softer with Atreus and stuff. But he actually showed genuine emotion.
Yeah.
And genuine caring for something other than his son and himself and being left alone.
It's so confounding to me, man.
Yeah, they made a lot of really bad decisions is the problem, I think.
They just, like you said, it seemed like a rush job at the end.
Right, it seems like, and that's what I said from the start. It seemed like they made the ending and then built a game
around the ending.
But once the game was so good, they just didn't bother fixing the ending.
Right, because, some of the things you see in that game, the Hafgafa? Big jellyfish.
Big giant jellyfish, yeah.
And Alfheim?
Yes.
That was, the coolest shit ever.
Right, and that was a side quest.
Right? Oh, it was a side quest, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was so awesome. Because you get the Song of Storms, and then... Or the
Song of the Sands.
Song of the Sands. And then...
That's a callback. Wait a minute, I just thought about that. That's a callback.
To what?
The first God of War game when you're wandering around the desert looking for the goddamn sirens.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I did too, till just now. Till you said that. But yeah, that was such a cool thing.
Oh yeah, that was such an awesome moment. And
the payoff of that, them spawning their children.
Oh yeah.
And that they did a really good job with that. There was a point for that. It was Kratos. It was a symbol so that Kratos could explain to Atreus that a parent gives themselves so their child can be better.
Right.
And that's one of the main themes of 2018 especially was we need to be better.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's funny that you say that because they weren't better.
Not in the slightest.
At the end, I mean, they went through with Ragnarok for vengeance because Brock died.
Yeah.
That is literally
That's the motivation that it ended up being.
I mean, Kratos even says it.
Yeah. But he changes his tune once they get to Asgard, of course. But
that's the reason.
The original reason that they mobilized is for vengeance.
Yeah.
Not justice. Because that's what they ended up saying.
Yeah.
Justice. But no, they mobilized for vengeance, and they were ready to throw down. Like, they raised an army in less than a day.
Yeah.
You know?
Pretty
not
shit
much.
army.
I was about to say, not much of an army, but an army. The corporeal forms of the Valkyries.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and you fight 2 Valkyries in that game, and they're jokes.
They're not.
Actual Valkyries.
They weren't the original Valkyries.
Right, well, you saved all the original ones.
Yeah, all the original Valkyries were on your side.
Yep.
I don't know. Everything just seemed to move too fast.
And too slow at the same time.
Right, like Freya.
Freya was trying to kill you in the first hour of the game. Third hour of the game, she was your companion.
And she had been trying to kill you since the end of the first game.
She swore that she was going to kill Kratos.
I don't remember what she said, but she really, really threatened him.
Like, that is Hell Hath No Fury at its finest.
Yeah. And then you help her do something, and she's just...
Well, you help free her from being stuck in Midgard, which is great, which you cause way more problems doing that than you do solutions, because you kill the guardian of the fucking roots of the Tree of Life. But...
What was that thing's name?
I don't fucking remember. It's something weird. I have no clue.
Can't remember.
No clue.
But yeah, Freya really flipped. I mean, everything just seems so flip-floppy all the time.
Right. Like, the whole time they were talking about how prophecy wasn't set in stone, but by the end of it, they followed the prophecy to the letter.
Right. But then they also didn't follow some prophecies, like Kratos didn't die.
Right.
In Atreus' arms that we saw yet,
right.
I guess, maybe. That's later.
I mean, it's possible it could still happen, but
in the same mural, well, no, it can't, because in the same mural, Atreus joins Odin.
Right.
And Odin's fucking dead. So...
It just seemed... They didn't seem to know what they wanted to do with it.
Right. I think they were confused about which direction they should take it, so they just took it in all of them.
Right. And then they played it as safe as they could possibly play it at the end.
It was a very safe ending.
Like, there was no stakes to anything, really.
No.
At the end.
You never once felt like you were
in danger.
In danger.
Neither Atreus nor Kratos.
No.
Like, there was no thought that you were in danger at any point.
The only time I ever felt like one of the characters was in danger was in maybe Helheim. I don't really remember. Whenever Sif comes to arrest Atreus after Kratos kills Heimdall.
They're in Muspelheim. Because that was right after Thor did the trials. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. They were in Helheim because he was with Thrud.
It was either Helheim or Niflheim. I can't remember which. Might have been Niflheim.
Might have been Niflheim. Because you don't spend much time in Niflheim.
No,
like,
it's
you
just
don't go...
the Ravens.
Right, you don't go to Evaldi's workshop or anything.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
God, that was such a slog.
Slog, bro. But they replaced it with other parts that didn't need to be there. Like, they made some of the overworlds so convoluted that it wouldn't even be fun.
No.
Like, Vanaheim.
Vanaheim was a confusing place.
Bro. It was all a circle that led back onto itself, but it was a circle with 7,000 branches going off of it.
Yeah, it was... But it was more vertical.
Right.
Too.
It was way more
everything was like
up
tiered.
and down. Right.
It was strange.
Well, and that's the thing, too. There were so many traversal options in this game. Like, they gave Kratos his own a special weapon just so he could be traverse.
Yeah, the spear.
And, like, the thing is, yeah, they've done that in older games, but the other stuff that you got was actually usable. The spear, it came in 3/4 of the way through the game, and it never, ever felt like it matched up to anything else.
No.
Because it started at level 5.
Yeah.
And it still never even came close to anything. And, like, yeah, some of the powers were cool. Like, it was very Spartan.
Yeah, it was.
some of it was very Spartan. But it was such a, I don't know, it was such a weird thing because it should have been so cool because it's infinitely replicating fucking spear.
Yeah.
Drop near.
Yeah.
The infinitely replicating ring. They forged it into a spear. A mermaid did it with Kratos' blood. It is literally a spear with the blood of a god inside it.
Yeah. Should be a fucking very powerful
They
weapon.
made it. Their story reason was so that he could fight Heimdall.
Yeah, because Heimdall the god of foresight.
Right. You couldn't hit him. Except Kratos fucking hit him.
Yeah, Kratos put hands all over him.
Kratos was going to let him live, too.
Yeah, well, Heimdall's too proud for all that. Yeah. I love in the Norn section when they called Mimir Puck.
Yeah.
That was so great.
Right, they actually called back to it, which is really nice.
Yeah, I was worried they'd just let that go.
Because they made a lot of allusion to it.
Yeah.
They even called him Robin the Goodfellow in the first one.
Me and Goodfellows, they called us.
Yeah. So like they made a lot of implications to that, and then they actually called back on it and confirmed it, which was really nice.
Yeah, I'm glad he wasn't just a good fellow and
was actually Puck. Right.
Yeah.
Because King Oberon,
Yeah.
like he came from the king and went to the king.
You think Odin's bad?
Right. Oberon, Fae people, bro. That's a whole nother story. We don't play with the Fae people. I don't know. It was such a disappointment.
It was.
And like I feel like we're probably in the minority. It seems that we're in the minority.
Based off of everything I've seen, we are definitely in the minority.
But it was such a letdown. Like, and
they didn't answer
any of the questions that needed answered. No. And not only that, they recycled so much stuff.
Oh yeah. That whole game was recycled, bro.
And I get that, you use assets to make development better and easier, but they use the same animations and stuff.
Same animations for new enemies.
Yeah.
Even.
And that was the thing, too. That was one of the big things that people got upset about the first one was there's no enemy variety. Well, they swore up and down that there would be enemy variety in this, and there wasn't. There were new enemies, but they were just reskins of old enemies.
Right, they had basically the same attacks and powers.
Right. Like, they weren't new enemies.
The only really new enemy I can think of was, like, the Light Elves.
Yeah.
They fought completely differently than the Dark Elves.
Right. But you only fought them one time. In the one section before you fucking free the Hafkafa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could probably fight more of them inside.
Right, I'm sure. But, and that's the other thing, too. The playthrough we saw, the creator missed a lot of the stuff. Which I've gone back and seen some of it and, put together some things that we missed. But the things we missed weren't hugely implication other than the whole Laufey fighting Thor thing. Yeah. That's the only big thing that was missed. And then the device that the dwarves made for Mimir's head.
Yeah.
We never even saw an inkling of that.
Although, the 2018 game, the end, was really good because it was emotional. There was a good twist at the end, something you didn't see coming.
Very, very gut punchy.
I will say there was a twist like that in Ragnarok, but it was about halfway through.
Yeah.
Odin
being Tyr.
Yeah.
Because you go save Tyr. That's the first thing you do.
Yeah,
because in the prophecy, Tyr leads the army into battle.
The armies of Ragnarok.
Right. So one of the very first things you do is go free Tyr. Well, it turns out that the whole time that Tyr has been, in your base of operations, been there just hanging out, listening to everything you say, it turns out the whole time it was fucking Odin.
Yep.
Just randomly.
I did not see it coming, and I did like that. That was a good twist.
That was a very nice twist.
That is definitely something I feel like that Odin at least would do.
Right. And now after the fact, the directors and the producers and things have come out and stated that Odin was always there throughout the game.
Right.
He was just in different forms throughout the places.
Yeah, he was the
spitting dwarf on the bridge in Svartalheim.
Yeah, when you first get into the town and they raise the alarm, he spits over the edge of the bridge as you go underneath.
Yeah.
That's Odin.
Right.
That's crazy.
So he was there. But Tyr was also technically in the game world. He was just hidden behind all the ravens.
Yeah, you're going to get all the ravens to unlock. the actual Tyr.
Right.
And then you have one conversation with him.
And then he's just out in the world, and nothing else comes of it.
Yeah, he's out in the world, and he comments on things if you find him in certain places. And I think that's maybe like 3 times.
Yeah,
you can
and
find
that's
him.
it.
It's a big disappointment in a lot of ways. But
Well,
that twist specifically, I thought was good. I didn't see that coming,
I didn't either.
and I was really like, oh damn.
And I thought it was really nice that Brock was the one that called it.
Yeah, Brock was really
Brock was
calling his
fast,
shit. He
quick.
said, "Wait a minute, hang on a minute."
He heard him call him Loki is what happened.
Yeah.
Because, see, that's the thing. Odin slipped up, called him Loki in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And Brock was like, hey, motherfucker.
Wait a minute.
You not who you saying you are. And then he fucking kills him.
Yeah.
And then that's what motivates them to start Ragnarok.
Yeah. Brock's death.
Yeah. It just... It's sad, really. Like, it's a disappointment. You know?
I don't know nothing about game development and how hard it is, but I feel like they could have done way better with the story.
Yeah. They had fucking 4 years between the last 2 games. And, like, yeah, that's a quick development cycle for a AAA game.
But they reused so many assets.
Right. They didn't have to develop shit. Just the environments and the enemies.
Yeah. Skins, basically.
Yeah,
And,
because the moves were all the same. The only new thing was drop near.
Yeah.
Like, the blades were the same. I mean
you had the same combos and everything.
Right, and Atreus had new moves because you played as him, and then you had Freya to upgrade as your companion for Kratos when Atreus wasn't there. Which is another thing. Kratos and Atreus are only together for, like...
2 big sections
right.
of that game.
It might be a third of the game, if that.
Maybe.
Might be a fifth of the game.
But a lot of time you're spending...
Split up.
Yeah, without one or the other.
Right. And that wasn't a good... I didn't like that direction either.
No,
and like there was a lot of Atreus hiding things from Kratos.
Well, here's a good point that I just thought that I should make. The first game, it was really... I mean, for a God of War game especially, it was like a smaller scale type game.
Right.
Like, the environments weren't massive.
There was no big, massive, giant, Titan-sized enemies.
Right. It was a smaller scale game. And they did great with it. And I think the problem they ran into is Santa Monica was having trouble doing big,
right,
grandiose things like Ragnarok's supposed to be.
Right.
You know?
And like... It just seemed... I don't know. It seemed like they kind of just gave up the ghost at the end of it.
Yeah. It felt rushed.
And, like, from what I understood, this was supposed to be the end of the character Kratos. And I get that they're going to retire him. But he's a god of war. That kind of guy doesn't fucking retire.
And he sure as fuck doesn't...
And get worshipped.
Yeah, he sure as fuck doesn't end up the people's champion of Midgard.
No.
That should not happen. That's craziness.
Yeah.
Kratos should never be worshipped.
No.
He has done way too much bad
And, like,
shit.
yeah, I get that the whole thing is that it's character development and he's supposed to be better than he was. But on the scale of the things he's done versus the things that he did to redeem himself, it doesn't even register on the map.
No.
Like, not even close.
Well, I mean, he really didn't do anything to redeem himself because he didn't do anything. He didn't want to redeem himself. He did everything to protect his son.
Yeah.
But then just lets him go by himself at the end.
At the very end.
After they'd beaten all their enemies, and they can live in peace if they wanted to.
Right. Like, the whole deal is that now Asgard's gone. It's the time of the man.
It is the time of men. I mean, I think mythologically that's what Ragnarok's supposed to signify in the beginning of the Age of Man.
Right, because Baldur comes back.
Right.
And leads the Age of Man.
That is another weird thing that they didn't bring a lot into was Baldur.
Yeah, he was just a complete afterthought.
I think he had one scene.
Yeah. He wasn't in the game at all.
I mean, there was, I think, the Norn scene. I think he was in.
Was he?
I think. Whenever they go to the Norns and they're fucking with them. And
yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right.
I think so.
But, by the by, not for nothing, the actor that played Baldur, chef's kiss.
Like Ryan Hurst playing Thor.
Dude, that was the best casting they could have made.
Oh, yeah.
He did such a good job. Like, I've watched him in a few things. I watched him in Sons of Anarchy, and he was great in it. And he was in this other show that was really shitty, and he was the best part of it too. But he really shined as Thor. Like, he played that character very well. He had that gruffness to him, that fucking anger, that deep-seated hatred for himself and everybody around him kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, he did really good with that.
Right, and you could tell. You could tell how much he put into his performance by the way that it came out.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Like, his delivery was perfect for that character.
I would love to see tapes of that recording booth.
Oh, yeah.
Would love
with
to
him
see
in
that.
it? Yeah, absolutely.
With all of them. I mean, because it was all motion capture. I forgot
Right.
about that.
Yeah, because Sonny Suljic and Christopher Judge did all mocap for...
I would love to see some mocap of Ryan Hurst
as Thor. Be fucking awesome. Because he's like 6'8". He's a big sumbitch.
He's a tall guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Well, I mean, Thor was like 9 feet tall.
Yeah, right. So he would have been on like stilts or something, which would have been fucking hilarious to see. I'd have loved to have seen it. And you know they had a ball. Like, you know, you see some like little things here and there. I'm the goddamn God of War.
I'm a fucking God of War.
Lambs, Chris. You know, like that kind of stuff. There's personality there. But just the game itself, man, was supposed to be such a big thing. Because that's the thing, too. Like, the 2018 game, nobody had any expectation of it.
No.
Because nobody knew it was coming, really.
No.
Like, there was very little talk about it at all, as far as I'm aware. Like, it came out of nowhere for me. I had no clue it was coming out.
I remember seeing it get announced, but up until the year it came out,
there was nothing for it.
Seeing anything about it.
So we went into that game with no expectation, which was fine. They did a damn good job. But what they did was set expectations for the next one that they did not meet.
No, they did not meet.
Like, they didn't even come close.
Well, the gameplay wasn't different enough to be exciting.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like, it was literally almost just the exact same.
They could have taken it and slimmed it down, and it could have been a story DLC for the first one.
Oh yeah, Ragnarok.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely just been DLC.
Yeah, like it didn't have to be a whole game.
No.
And that's the other thing. That's one of the things that really bothered me about it too, was that they padded it out so long with so many unnecessary shoehorned in sections.
There was a lot of bloat.
Right, for no reason. And like, technically, in a lot of places, it just didn't work.
Yeah, it was a technical nightmare.
And
sometimes,
like, there was glitches, and there were, you know.
Main one I can think of is Atreus getting stuck in places.
Right.
Not being able to use him.
Right, and that's detrimental when he's necessary, because he was getting stuck.
He's your traversal tool.
Right,
basically.
he was getting stuck in parts that you needed him for.
Yeah.
Like fighting enemies that only he could hit first, so you could hit them.
Yeah.
Like, without him, that completely fucks that.
Yeah.
And that's a big, big issue, you know? Which brings me to another point that I'd like to make here, and that I will make 10 million more times in any episode of this game, or of this podcast. I will wait 6 extra months for a fully developed game. I will die on that hill.
Oh yeah, I'll wait years if it's going to be better.
I don't give a fuck to play it before it's ready to be played. I don't care. The only reason they do that is so they don't have to pay playtesters anymore.
Yep.
Fuck that. I'm tired of paying for early access games.
Betas. You know,
Like,
alphas and betas.
and that's the thing too. Whenever they started doing that, it became betas becoming full releases, and then them fixing the game after it was released.
Yep.
And that's just a money grab.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I will 100% wait longer if it means that game's going to be ready to play first day and it's going to be awesome. Because think about if they had done that to like Red Dead 2. You know? Or Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Like any other series of games, it might have destroyed them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the thing with Santa Monica and that kind of thing is they've been dormant for so long that it's kind of hard. Like, they're a Sony exclusive. They've got Sony money. So it's not going to destroy them, really.
You got that fat Sony fucking money.
It might, which it won't damage their reputation because, like I said, I'm pretty sure we're the minority in this whole deal.
I think so, too.
But, I don't know, as a person that has played a blue million RPGs, like, I've played RPGs in every sense of the word, from turn-based to MMO to
JRPGs.
right, to action-adventure like like God of War.
Mhm.
They just didn't hit the right buttons, man. They just like it was such a letdown for somebody that was in, and that's the thing too. I was invested in that story.
Oh yeah.
Because like I said at the beginning, that's the best character development we've ever seen in a video game character.
I think so.
Like, I can't think of one right off the top of my head that rivals it.
I mean, looking at Kratos from God of War 3 to 2018, it's like a completely new
Different
character.
person. Right. Like, completely new person.
It's just...
And, you know, another problem I really had with it, too, was, like, they did all these things, but Kratos never felt like Kratos.
No, we never got that return to...
Being the god of war that killed Ares and all of Olympus.
Right.
And all the Titans.
He felt significantly weaker than he should have been.
Right.
Like, I know, I like the theory that
It's because the Norse gods are old gods.
You know, they're old gods as opposed to...
The Greeks being new gods and not as powerful.
But
this man soloed the entirety of Olympus.
he killed Zeus.
He killed Zeus. He killed Hades, Poseidon, Hermes, Hercules,
Killed...
Medusa,
Oh, what's the wife's name?
Athena.
No.
He did kill Athena.
Yeah, but he killed Zeus's wife, Hera. He killed her.
Yep.
And fuck, she's the goddess of creation, basically.
Killed the Fates.
Killed the Fates. Killed all the Titans.
Right. Like, this man should have been able to stand up to Thor.
Oh yeah, easily.
Because even
I don't feel like Thor's the strongest god he's ever fought.
not by a long shot. I mean, he fought the literal god of the sea, the underworld, and all of Earth. You know, like, as far as, like, the fight card goes, the Thor fight punches pretty mid.
It does. It's not...
You know?
It's way more grounded.
Right. Even the Balder fight was more
Over the
spastic.
top.
You know?
Yeah.
Because, like, in the Balder fight, they were punching each other through mountains and shit.
I mean, in the very end Balder fight...
You're on a fucking dragon.
I mean, that's the middle one. The end one, you're fighting Balder, and Freya's there, and she's got the big reanimated titan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's just not a lot of that in Ragnarok.
No.
Not a lot of big things.
Like, there was so much small combat that any big combat just felt bland.
Tedious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you spend your whole time fighting anyway. And, like, that's the thing, too. There were no real true boss fights.
I didn't like the thing they used to replace the
Valkyries. The fucking... The gravestone?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't... It was like travelers, but they weren't travelers either.
Yeah.
And, like, it does do a good job of explaining the travelers, and...
That made me smile.
Yeah, it did me, too.
I'm glad they actually explained what the travelers were.
Right. And they gave one of those characters a redemption.
Did he end up dying?
No, he
No?
lived. Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
You save him.
Yeah,
You save him from the dragon.
That's right.
Because he falls out of the ship.
But it's all side content.
Right. None of it's main story content.
That's weird.
And, like, some games will do that, and it'll have an effect on the end of the game.
Right. And,
But it wouldn't
and
have.
you really feel like it might while you're doing it, I think.
But it wouldn't
But it
have.
doesn't.
I don't believe it would have had.
No, it wouldn't have.
Like, that's just one of those things. They just, like I said, they built a whole bunch of stuff up and then just left us hanging.
Yeah, that was my whole problem with it. They really, really spent a lot of time beating you over the head with Atreus trying to save Kratos from dying, and Kratos...
It was never even a danger.
No, he never comes close to dying.
No.
Nobody.
Like, the
really.
closest he comes to dying is in the first 20 minutes of the game when you
Fighting
fight Thor.
And he actually does die.
And, like, that's the thing, too. Like, my thing, too, with it was they painted themselves into a corner, really. Like, I can't think of what they're going to do next.
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
Like, if nothing else, the next game will start with Kratos dying in the first 10 minutes.
I hope so.
But here's the thing, man. He's a fucking god. How's he die? He can't die like a man.
Right. And there's no believable way to have him die in combat anymore. He's done killed 2 pantheons.
There is no...
He's done defeated the the end all be all of two pantheons. He defeated Odin. He defeated Zeus. What is more powerful?
There is no god that I can think of.
Maybe an Egyptian god.
Right, that'll be the only one. Anubis.
Yeah.
Or Ra.
Or Set.
Right. But for what? At what end? And to what end? What is it going to do? Are they going to have Kratos killed by one of them and turn Atreus into the new Kratos? He just goes and wipes out other pantheons?
Yeah, I'd be cool with that.
I mean, I would too. But they'd have to do a whole hell of a lot of character development.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it doesn't seem believable that anybody
could kill Kratos.
That they could encounter.
Right. I don't think. Like I said, I can't think of anybody that could do it.
And do gods die of old age? I mean, they obviously age, but do they
right.
die
But
from it?
I mean, Odin was thousands of years old.
Right.
You know. And that's the other thing too. It's really muddy about stuff like that because all these gods are gods of creation, but they all live on the same planet and all inhabit the same space.
Different pantheons.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like the Norse and the Greeks all existed at the same time. Because there's like we don't know exactly how long between, but there's less than 50 years between.
Yeah.
You know, at least I would assume.
Mimir knew of the ghost of Sparta.
Right. He called Kratos by that name.
You know, one thing that was real weird about Ragnarok?
What?
Hearing people say Kratos' name so much.
Yeah, they didn't say it at all in the first game.
Wasn't that strange?
But it was like they made a point to say it in this game.
It felt so weird.
Maybe
because the first game was so empty.
It felt almost forced.
It did.
Or it felt like they were trying to convey something that they didn't convey very well. Like they were trying to humanize Kratos or something.
Right.
But there was just no payoff on it. Like, and that's the thing. It was a glaring, you could tell that they were doing it on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Well, to recap, you should play God of War 18.
I mean, you should play Ragnarok.
You should probably.
Play whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. I think it was a disappointment.
As far as we're concerned, it's definitely, even compared to the old games, it's probably the low point in the series aside from the handheld games.
I've heard people say them. I ain't never played them.
I didn't either.
But I've heard people say they're pretty good.
I mean, they were important to the story.
Yeah. I mean, you meet Deimos in
right.
one of them.
Kratos' brother.
Yeah.
Which they called back to for a second.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's also weird that Kratos never mentioned he had another family.
Right. He never even spoke. And, like, this man wears the ashes of his other family, bro. He killed his wife and daughter and wears their ashes as a punishment.
I've been seeing all kinds of memes about Kratos fighting Christianity.
I mean, from what we saw on the thing in the 2018 game, there was Norse, there was Greek,
Celtic.
There was Celtic, and there was Japanese and Egyptian.
I don't think there was.
There wasn't the Norse. It wasn't a symbol.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
There was Greek, Celtic, Japanese, and Egyptian.
Yeah.
So I assume that's where they're gonna head.
Atreus would fit well in a Japanese setting.
He would, especially with his combat style that they had in this game.
Yeah, he would fit well.
And like,
give that man a sword, please.
Please.
Jesus Christ.
He is Kratos' son.
Give him a sword.
Give him. See, I think if they go through with the way I think they're going to go through, he'll end up with one of the blades. I don't think he'll get both. I think he'll get one of them.
Possible.
And I think he'll fashion it into a spear or something. Because he seems to, that distance seems to be good for him.
Well, he's not quite as strong as Kratos.
Right. And he was young still, too. He was only a teenager. Like an early teenager, like 13 or 14.
Maybe.
And
well, I think he was 10 in the first game, so he'd be about 13.
Yeah, because Fimbulwinter lasts for 3 years before Ragnarok. But, like I said, to recap, God of War 2018, fucking masterpiece. God of War Ragnarok, it had all of the makings to be amazing on every front. And if you listen to critical review, and for the majority of people it was. But looking at it below the surface the way we did, and being more so interested in the story than anything, because the gameplay, yeah, it's awesome, but as far as that game's concerned and the 2018 game's concerned, the story is the driving aspect.
Oh yeah.
You know, and like they tried that with the old ones, they just weren't very good at writing stories at that time.
Well, how do you can only write so many different ways for
a god to die, you know,
an angry, vengeful god, you know.
Right. I mean, that really only works one way.
Yeah.
But they just, as far as we're concerned, our opinion on it, they dropped the ball so fucking hard.
Oh yeah.
That I don't know that they'll be able to pick it back up. Not in my eyes, anyway. I don't know what they could do. They would have to do a whole hell of a lot to redeem themselves in my eyes.
Well, for me, they just have to tell a story they're not scared to tell.
Right, that's the thing. Like we said, they played it so safe. For no reason.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about all the time we can allow for.
Yep. We appreciate you guys checking us out again, listening to us. Hope you'll be back next time. We'll be doing a few more of these. Probably keep the same kind of system here.
System.
Yeah, kind of, we'll choose probably one game or a group of games and talk about them. And then, we'll probably do some overview things every once in a while. Big things, big upcoming things in gaming and that kind of stuff. Which leads me to one last point. The last 3 years of games have been shit. So, let's all collectively, y'all guys all, lend me your energy so we can spirit bomb this shit into 2023 and get some damn good games.
Yeah, I agree. You can have my energy, sir.
I'm telling you. All right, y'all. Well, y'all have a good night, and y'all take care of each other. Be good, be safe. We'll talk to y'all next time.